if you were listening to Stephen Crudis's market report at 10 to 5, you would have heard him mentioning that some very senior business people in South Africa have written to both Cyril Ramaphosa and John Steenhuisen and said, please, for the country's sake, save the government of national unity. The country has a lot to lose if the GNU collapses or if, because it is possible still to have a GNU, but the business view is that a GNU without the DA is not the GNU that South Africa needs at the moment. Ferial Haffajee of Daily Maverick joins us now. Ferial, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, John.
Is there any way that, you see, the DA has got to want to come back, and I don't know what the mood is within the party on that issue, and then the ANC has to be prepared to welcome them back. And the available evidence, or at any rate the evidence available to me, suggests they're not keen at all. Do you see any way of the DA staying in the GNU?
You know, I saw that letter by the Moneymen, and I don't think it's going to work, John. It seems to me like the breach is too wide now. That it's the 10th time it's come to this point, and before you could see goodwill enough on both sides, an understanding of the national imperative to have a large and centrist power sharing arrangement to run South Africa. But this time, if you look at the acerbic and acidic commentary on both sides of the divide, I'm not sure how you build a relationship back, even when you have as powerful as a constituency as big business saying, come on, guys, get your act together. We don't need this now. We're facing my Trump tracker, which is now today at about 15 different items about South Africa just this year alone.
Because it will still, look, the ANC has other options, and the ANC might regard those as better options to govern as a minority party, or, and you've been doing the maths, as have others been doing the maths, if they bring Action SA and Build One South Africa into the government of national unity, and Herman Mashaba once upon a time saying, I will never join the government of, well, now they're going, maybe we will, in the interests of South Africa, not in our own interests. We want to make this perfectly clear.
Yes.
It's in the interests of South Africa. That gets them to 200, which means 200 outside of the government of national unity, which makes for even more uncertain times.
Yeah, so then, Jonas has done the best calculations, which showed if the DA left, you'd have this 50-50, 50 in, 50 out, which is enormously unstable. Ask those of us who live in Johannesburg or Tshwane or Ekurhuleni what governance in such a situation feels like. A very bad idea. If obviously, as you say, Herman Mashaba's Action SA and Musi Maimani's BOSA, I think, would join, which takes it maybe to 52%, still enormously unstable coalition. I do think, John, that's what we're going to sit with, barring a miracle this weekend, if people can put aside their egos and see that the existing GNU is better for the country.
I mean, the DA might well decide that their political interests are better served by saying, we tried our best to influence government policy in a pro-growth way. We failed. We have to accept that the ANC is simply not interested in our views. So what's the point of being in government national unity as a toady, as a make up the numbers when it comes to important votes? So we're extricating. Cyril Ramaphosa might might cabinet reshuffle and take away the DA ministers from the cabinet, which would make it even more untenable for them to be in the government of national unity. And if that were to be the case, if the DA exits, then the DA ministers exit as well. How much of a loss do you think that will be, not to have Siviwe Gwagube, to have Dion George, to have Solly Malatsi, to have John Steenhuisen, to have, who have I left out, Dean McPherson and Leon Schreiber in the cabinet?
So I think that what the DA should acknowledge, and I had an interview with the Deputy Finance Minister, Ashur Farapin, is in fact they haven't been toadies without impact. Many people in the GNU, ANC ministers included, and certainly many DA ministers, others as well, they've really put their they've really been working hard, and I think beginning to show what good governance may look like. And certainly, I think that a a GNU without the ministers you named wouldn't we be without the fixes to home affairs you've been seeing, without the clarifications and a better system of public infrastructure development. It would be a loss. It would be sad if they couldn't find each other. There's also I would argue, many good ANC ministers showing us important steps, like Khosi and Sora Mahopa, the electricity minister. They've begun to work well together. It's a pity that it's come to this point.
Yes, if they do leave government, leave cabinet, then they will be replaced. And I don't know the Action SA caucus terribly well, so I must be careful not to blanket them as not showing much in the way of leadership potential and promise and so on. Musi Maimane as a minister, Athol Trollip as a minister of agriculture, potentially. Athol might be a decent minister of agriculture, but it's hard to see how from ANC ranks, people who are not ministers at the moment, and from the ranks of the two parties that would come in to help them make up the new government of national unity, it's hard to see where the quality is that would replicate or do better than the the DA ministers who would leave the posts.
So I'd like to just step back for a moment here and consider also whether we shouldn't be a little more critical of the DA here, John. Is that I think it's a truism, as the presidency has been saying, that you can't be both an opposition and in government. Yeah. And I think we have to ask whether the DA managed that this binary identity with sufficient maturity. If you're going to be in a government of national unity, then you're in a government of national unity, and you can't step outside quite so often. Did he get that right? These are questions I'm asking myself. And I mean, the thought of another cabinet reshuffle just makes me cold, because, you know, in Joburg, this is what we suffer with, and the impacts on governance are extreme. Who would go into those positions? I'm sure there's many people lining up to do so. But before we go there, I think the risks to South Africa are so enormous that we should tabulate those before we even get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the DA has overplayed its oppositional hand. I think it has wanted too much to show its supporters who were uncomfortable about it going into a government of national unity alongside the ANC, that it wasn't going to dull its critical fangs in any way. And so I am critical of them. And I do think that in the budget negotiations, they added too many things into the mix. And they made it more difficult than I think it needed to be in order to get some kind of meaningful agreement.
I mean, they won good concessions, John. They got VAT increased down by 1.5 percentage points. They got commitment to a proper spending review, where they would have been able to appoint some people to a panel who would have had, I think, enormous possible influence. So they had won important concessions. I know they tried to pack into the big red flag items, the NHI, the expropriation bill, and the Bella regulations, which haven't yet been passed. And we have to ask ourselves, even if it wasn't for the budget, were those going to be existential roadblocks for the GNU anyhow? If not right now, then later in the year.
Ferial Haffajee of Daily Maverick, thank you very much for chatting to me this afternoon.